Hi, my name is Dan Greenwood. I am a brand specialist with Alpine Electronics, and today we're going to be doing a quick setup guide and tuning video for the Auto-8. Now this video is going to apply to two different products, the PXE-C80-88 as well as the PXE-C60-60. Now we call those the Auto-8 and the Auto-6 respectively. The only difference between these two products is going to be a couple different things. One, the Auto-8 is an 8-channel, as the Auto-6 is a 6-channel. Pretty straightforward. Now the Auto-8 is also going to have an amplifier built in. So what it's going to give you is a channels 1 through 6 are going to be 50 watts per channel, and channels 7 and 8 are going to be 150 by 2. Now those two channels can also be run down to 2 ohm, and you get 300 by 2. Now please do keep in mind on channel 7 and 8 you cannot bridge them. So if you want to run a subwoofer off of them, you're going to either need to run two very efficient 2 ohm subs and one per channel, or if you have a bigger sub, you're going to want to run like a dual 2 ohm subwoofer, 1 channel per coil. Okay. Now as far as the Auto-6 goes, like I said before, there is no amplifier in it, so it's just going to have pre-outs only, so you're going to want to use external amplifiers with that one. But both products do come with the Bluetooth dongle, the controller, everything you need to get it set up. And what's really cool is they also both use the exact same software and same setup guide, same everything. So today we're going to be doing the Auto-8, but everything we're talking about today will apply to the Auto-6 as well. So first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get the software. Now, where do you find that software? It's real simple. Go to alpine-usa.com, and then you're going to want to scroll over to products, look down, and you're going to see sound processors. And then on the right side, you'll see a C80, the C80 right here, which is the Auto-8. Click that. It'll take you to the site, scroll down, and then you'll see a link right here for the PC app. So just click that, it'll open up a new window, and then you're gonna want to download the setup guide, and there's also a PDF that has a little bit of instruction on what you need to do there, okay? As far as the app goes, you want to get your iPhone out. Now this is iPhone only because we actually know what microphones are in the iPhone. They're all standardized. That's the reason why we stuck with iPhone only. But what you want to do is just go to the App Store, search PXE, and you're going to see the second search down on my screen is going to see PXE-C80_C60. Just select that. And then I already have the app installed on my phone, but then just download it, and then you'll have the app ready to go. All right, now that we have the program on our Windows PC, we're just going to open it up. And I already have an Auto-8 over here powered up and connected to the USB port on the computer. So you'll see that it's already doing the data processing, and it's already synced up to the computer. Another way you're going to know that you are connected is in the top left corner here, you'll have a green power icon. Green means that you are connected. If it's red, that means you're going to be in offline mode and you're not connected to the DSP. So just kind of getting a quick overview and quick look at the software. This is going to be what we call the home screen. And right away on the top, you'll have a master volume. And then over here on the top right, it'll be different screens for different features of the DSP. We're going to go into each one of those. First things first, you're going to want to determine what your main source is. So over here on main source selection, this is where you're telling the DSP, are you using a high level end like a factory audio system, or aux, which is actually a low level, the RCA input. You can even use Bluetooth or USB audio or the digital coax input. You can actually set one of those as your main source as well. Over here on mix source, this is actually a really cool feature. This is actually a secondary source that you can have selected, and whenever it receives any kind of signal on that source, it will automatically switch to it. And then the attenuation slider here, that's actually how much it will mute the main channel. So if you have, for example, Bluetooth set, it'll actually attenuate you actually attenuate 100% of the factory's the main source. So pretty cool idea there. One thing you can do is you can actually have like your high level as your factory audio, but if you want to stream from your phone every once in a while to get a little better quality, you can have Bluetooth set as your mix source. And once you start streaming, the controller will become your volume knob, and then you don't have to change any sources or anything. It works really well. So I'm going to leave that on off for right now. Down here, this is what we'll do. We'll set up the input, set up the outputs. This is also set up the high-level input anti-EQ. We'll go into that as well as the auto EQ. That'll be towards the end of the video. Looking at the EQ screen, so right now we are actually on the default settings, this is how the Optim8 comes out of the box. So you'll see that all channels 1 through 6 are already set to full range, and channel 7 and 8 are set to subwoofer. This is probably not going to match the system that you're doing, so we're going to go over how to set that up and make it match what you are, the system that you are installing. Time correction screen, we'll get back into this a little later, but this is where you can set your delay for each channel. And your mixer is how you're going to identify what signal from the input is going to what output. Now, this can be a little daunting, a little complicated to some people. That's okay. What we're going to go over and how to set up their inputs and your outputs is actually going to automatically set this up for you, and it works really well. So we're going to go back to the home screen, and the first things first is we're going to set input mode selection. Now, before you do this, and we're going to assume that the system has already been installed, you're going to want to know exactly what you have hooked up and where. So let's say, for example, you're doing this on a factory sound system. It's non-amplified. It's real simple. It just has fronts and rears, full range speakers. You can see right here on the input mode, there's a 4-channel input, and it's actually set up exactly like that system. Now, do keep in mind that it's not numbered here, but the numbered inputs on the DSP are 1 through 8. You're actually going to match them here. So, like the top left will be 1, and then top right will be 2, and so on. And it just continues down. That's how all these are going to be. So let's say, just hypothetically, that's your system. So we'll select that. Now down here, it's also going to want you to select an auxiliary channel. You can select any one of these or just leave it on customized. It doesn't matter. If you're not using aux, that's okay. If you are using low level with with an aftermarket radio or some kind of integration device, then you would use that, and you can actually just leave the high level on custom. But we're going to hit next. It's going to say, hey, since you left auxiliary on custom, how many channels do you want to use? We'll just leave it on 6. We'll just leave them open. It's okay. All right. So now we're going to go and tell it what system that we're installing. What is our configuration? So we're going to go to output mode selection, and you're also going to see some similar diagrams to just what we saw in the input mode. Now you can look through here and see if any of these match the system that you've done. A very popular, very common one is over here in this 8-channel, which is a 2-way active front stage. So you got front highs, front lows, rear full range, as well as subwoofer left and right, or 2 sub outputs. So let's say this is the system we did. Now please do keep in mind that channels 1 and 2 are up here, channels 3 and 4 are here, 5, 6, and 7 and 8. That's how these are identified in here and how they're going to be wired on the DSP. So let's select that. And now it has actually gone through and configured everything. So let's take a look through and see what all it did. So let's jump over to the EQ screen, and you'll see that it has actually now identified the front left tweeters, woofers, the rear full range, as well as subwoofer. And it's actually gone and set up a basic crossover just to get you going. So you can go through here on each channel and adjust the crossover to whatever setting you want, and whatever crossover point works for whatever speaker you're doing. And then you're good to go. Time correction screen. Like I said before, this is when you would input your delay for your speakers. So please do keep in mind that you cannot just put in the measurement you can't just grab a tape measure, go from your driver's seat and go to your speaker and put that measurement in, because it actually does not do the calculation for you of the difference between the furthest speaker away from the closest speaker. So a little trick I like to use, and it might help you guys out and make it real simple. There's a website. It's called traceright.com. Here's a link down here. This is how it's spelled. We'll put a link down in the description for you as well. And what you can do there is actually input your measurements and hit calculate, and it'll give you all your delay measurements in milliseconds. Then just come in here and type them in, and then you're set. It's real simple, and it works really great. Okay, now going over to the mixer tab. This is when you'll see it looks a little different than it did before. You'll see the auxes are not set up because we actually are not using those. We're using high level input. So you can see that we're also only using 4 of the high level inputs, so it actually grayed out the rest of them. So we have on the left side, these are all your inputs, and across the bottom are all your outputs. So the easiest way to describe this and to understand this is what you find your input and how much of that signal, percentage-wise, do you want to go to the output across the bottom. So, for example, channel one on the input is full range front left. That's what channel 1 on the output will be. It'll be a front left speaker, so we want 100% of that signal. That's a tweeter. And channel 3 is a woofer, so we also want the same signal going out to that, okay? And so on. And you'll also see that channel 7 and 8 are actually not populated from the rear, so they're actually taking a signal from the fronts and monoing them. That's actually pretty common. A lot of vehicles do have more of a lower signal in the front, low range signal in the front, so just note that. And if it's a vehicle where you actually have small speakers in the front and maybe 6x9s in the back, maybe you want to switch that to the rears. It's just going to depend on the vehicle that you're doing. Okay, so that's it. Now the next step you can do, since we're using high level input in this scenario, is you can actually take a look at the anti-EQ. What this screen does is it actually allows you to do any like a de-equalization of the factory source. So if it's you're having a little bit of a problem at, like, for example, 500 hertz, and you need to bring it down on channel 1, you can actually do that here. And it is a parametric EQ, so you can adjust the Q to pretty wide to extremely narrow. So so you can do this and adjust it. And while you're doing this, you can actually be playing pink noise through your factory source. And down here at the bottom of the screen is an RTA. So you can actually see the signal on that channel while you're adjusting EQ. So if you need to do any kind of de-equalization or anything, this is where you would do that. Okay, so let's say that you did a system that is not in one of these predetermined configurations. That's okay. We can actually set this up customized as well. So I've already reset the DSP back to its default settings. So once again, you would select what your input level, your input source will be, and so on. So let's go ahead and jump right into input mode. And you scroll through all of these, and none of these match the system that you did, right? So let's just leave it on customized. And this is when it'll ask you, hey, how many channels of high level and low level are you going to be using? We'll just leave them all open, so we're going to hit enter. And then we're going to continue on to set up the inputs. So where you would do that on high level input is you go back into the anti-EQ screen, and you're going to see that all the channels are now set. They're all nullified, so they'll say null. This is when you would tell it what channel you gave it. So let's say, for example, you did a vehicle that is an active 3-way front, and it has a subwoofer, like a 1 mono channel sub. So we'll do channels 1. Channel 1 will be the front left tweeter. 2 will be the front right tweeter. You just click and select what it is, and then we'll have mids on channels 3 and 4. Woofer on 5 and 6. And then we'll just say channel 7 was a subwoofer. Okay. All right. So we set those up. Hit save. Close the screen. Okay. Now we're going to set up our outputs. So we'll go to output mode. And once again, we're going to leave this on custom. Hit next. And we're going to just leave all 8 channels open. So we're going to hit enter. And now across the bottom here, you're going to see that this all kind of got grayed out and nullified. Now there's 2 ways you can set up your output channels. You can do it right here on the home screen, and you can just select what channel you're doing and select what it is. I actually like to do it on the EQ screen because they're all just right here and real easy to get to. So let's say the system that we're doing is real simple. Even though we have this in a configurator, but it's a 2-way front, full range rear, and sub. Okay, so we're going to do front left tweeter on channel 1, front right tweeter on channel 2. Channel 3 will be woofer. 4 will be front right woofer. 5 will be full range. 6 will be full range for rear. And then we'll do subwoofer left and right on channel 7 and 8. Okay. Now, you can go through each one of these channels, and you'll see as you apply this, and it also does put on a basic crossover for you. You can go through and, for example, you want a high pass on your woofer. You can say, hey, and you can actually punch the number in. I want an 80 hertz at 24 dB Linkwitz Riley high pass on my woofers. So you can select that in there, and then you can say, okay, we'll change this to 24 on the low pass, and you're set. If you want to do this between left and right together, that's actually what the sync button does, and you can copy from left to right or right to left. It just depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to hit OK, and you'll see now when I look at both woofers are the same, and you can continue that on for the rest of your channels. So now we've set up the inputs and the outputs. Let's go take a look at the mixer and see what that did. So as you can see, it actually already kind of populated what we need. So we can see that it said that the front channel 1 was our front right tweeter. It let that signal go right out to our other tweeters. Now, something you might want to do here, since we actually had a full range, we didn't have full range, we had 3-way speakers in here. Depending on the crossover points and the frequency range in the factory, you might actually find yourself wanting to do to mix in like channels 3 and 5 together on the woofer output, so that way you get all the frequency range that you're expecting. That's what's called summing. This is how you would do that. Okay, so, but what it's going to do by default is get you pretty close. Now, like I said, this is a kind of a weird scenario, but you can also see here on the rear panel, since we actually didn't give this any rear channels from the factory system because we just summed the whole front and the sub to get full range signal. You'll see that it actually did 100% of the tweeter, the mid, and the woofer. Mix all 3 of those together to give you full range output on channel 5. So now we're all set up. You would, at this point, you would go, like I said, you go through, you set up your crossovers. You can adjust your levels right here accordingly. This point, I would also give everything a listen to make sure everything's playing like it should. Make sure every speaker's playing the frequencies that it should. Play with the balance fader on the radio. Make sure everything's going where it should. Really good suggestion here is if you have a phase checker, go around and check phase on all your speakers. That is very important. And then what you're going to want to do is, this is optional, but then you would set your delay. And then now you're going to want to save. So we have all of our settings here. We have everything all set up. Down here in the bottom right corner of the EQ screen, this is where we can save our presets, which is saving everything to the internal memory of the DSP. Now, by default, the call button is going to be highlighted. So if I were to click preset 1 right now, it's gonna override everything I did and just load the default value for preset, because call means load. Ask me how I know. So we want to make sure you click save first, and then now we're going to select preset 1. And at this point, you can label the preset what you want. I'm just going to leave it as preset 1 right now and click OK. Now, as you might have noticed right there, it said data processing, and it popped up very quick, and then it went away. That means that it actually did not sync. Something very interesting that I've noticed on this, and it doesn't matter if you have a USB extension or not. Right now, I actually don't have one. That actually means it did not sync and save all the settings to the DSP. So what you're going to want to do is click preset 1 again and hit OK. And now it's synced, because you notice that the ring animated. You want to see that ring animate. If it doesn't animate, just do it again. Cool. So now we got everything saved. We know everything's playing. We know everything's good. We're going to go ahead and run out to the vehicle that has one of these installed, and we're going to do the auto EQ setting and check out how the auto EQ works. Okay, we're out here in the vehicle with an Auto-8 installed, and we're about to tune this thing. Now, there's 2 ways we can do this. One is with the iPhone app that we talked about before. Now, for those of you that don't have an iPhone, that's okay. We also do have the KTX CSP1, and what this is actually a microphone that is, we'll just plug in with an extension cable right into the processor. There's actually a port on there called mic, and you would just plug it into that, and then all the steps that we're about to do on the phone can just be done on the PC software, and it is the exact same process. So we're just going to show you on the phone, but do note that all the screen capture, everything you're seeing on the app is identical on the PC software. Okay, so first things first is we're going to have the vehicle inside of a nice, fairly quiet space. I understand that maybe you can't do that, but just try if you have music on in the bay or a compressor kicks on, just kind of turn it off just for a couple minutes. That way you do this, it just makes the process go a lot smoother. We're going to have all the windows up in the vehicle. We're not going to have the engine running. We're not going to have the AC running. We'll try to have it as quiet as possible in here, okay? Okay, before we get measuring, please do keep in mind, if you're using an iPhone, that you are going to want to disconnect CarPlay or Bluetooth to the head unit in your car. And the reason why is because there's a really good chance while you're doing all these measurements, instead of using the internal mic on the phone, it's going to be using your Bluetooth mic in the car, which will not give you an accurate measurement. So first things first, you want to get disconnected, or if you're using a different phone that's not connected to that head unit, you'll be okay. But you do not want CarPlay or Bluetooth connected to the car while you do this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get our phone paired up to the DSP's Bluetooth. So as you can see here, I'm in my Bluetooth, and there's a DSP HD-40459B. Now yours will always start with DSP HD, and then it's going to have different numbers after that. That's part of the serial number. That's okay, but that's what we want to connect to. So we're just going to tap that. There is no passcode or anything to connect to it. So we are now connected. So now we can go over to our PXE C60 C80 app, and we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to hit scan again, but this is what you should see the first time you launch it. You'll see right here that there's the same model number DSP that we found before with the Bluetooth little blue icon to the right. So we're going to go ahead and tap that. And now we're ready to go. So if this is the first time you've ever paired to this is the first time we're pairing to this Optim8, so this is the screen we're going to see. It's actually going to guide us right through the process of what we need to do. So the first things first is we're actually going to get our levels set. Now do keep in mind all of the tones that are being generated. It's actually a sine sweep. These are all being generated from inside the DSP. So whatever source you're using, like in this case we're using an F511, it's actually not going to be used. So we need to get the level set, and this is actually going to generate a sound as soon as I hit start, and then we're going to move a slider and we're going to aim for the middle of the range, and you're going to see that what I'm talking about here as soon as I hit start, okay? And you'll probably hear the sound as well. See? So what you want to do is move the slider right into the middle of the two red lines, and once it's happy, it'll actually stop itself, and then we're just going to hit proceed. Okay, great. So now we're on the next screen, which just shows that we're about to measure the frequency response of the vehicle. So it's giving a little animation here saying, hey, you're about to move your phone around the vehicle, and we're going to capture about 2 minutes worth of sine sweeps. And actually during that process, the processor is calculating and measuring about 200 times and finding an average of the frequency response of the vehicle. So this is going to give you kind of a notice, like a 5-second notice before it starts doing this. So we're actually going to be moving the mic for the whole phone around, because we are using the internal mics on the phone itself. Now, please do keep in mind that if you have some kind of big case on your phone, or maybe your mics are dirty, you might want to clean them out first, because that can highly affect the results that you get, okay? So we're going to go ahead and hit measure. We're going to have a 5-second countdown. And then we just start moving around. Now I went ahead and canceled this just to show you something. Now you'll see on the left side of the screen here that it is the bass is kind of high. Now in some cases, in this case we're okay because it's actually all visible and on the scale. Now if you actually have a lot of bass in your car and you notice that the left side of the line is off the screen, here's a picture on screen of what that might look like. There's a real easy fix for this, because if you don't do anything about this, it'll actually try to EQ all that bass out, which we don't want to lose. So if you are seeing that, what you're going to want to do is hit cancel, and then you're going to go into the controller that is included. Now, if you don't have the controller hooked up, you can do this in the software, or you can, if you have a bass knob, you can use that. Do keep in mind the radio's sub level will not affect this at all. But we're going to hold the knob for 3 seconds. And then we're going to see subwoofer, and then we just want to turn that down a few steps. And then what that's going to do is lower the sub level, and then we're going to do another measurement to see if we're in the scale, okay? So we're going to go ahead and hit remeasure, and it's going to have us set the levels again. Do keep in mind when you're doing this, you don't want to have your hand over the microphones on the phone. They're on this side, on the bottom. Okay, so we got the measurements done again, so we're gonna hit proceed. and then we're about to do our measurements in the car. So we're going to start on the driver's side, and we're going to kind of cover as much of the area around, you know, I go from about level of the bottom of the window up to above your head, over and way in front of you, all around your head, and then you're just going to kind of go in slices all the way to the other passenger side of the vehicle. And if you get over there and you still have time left, then it's okay. Just start working your way back until the measurement's complete, okay? All right, perfect. So we can see that our measurement is now done, and the solid line that you're seeing is actually the average of all the measurements, and the more of the ghost lines in the background are all the real-time measurements that were picked up. So if you are happy with everything, then you hit accept. If you want to do another measurement because maybe the compressor did kick on, or maybe another car in the bay has a lot of bass going and you've picked that up, you might want to do a remeasure. You can do that right here. But we're good. We're happy with our results, so we're going to hit accept. And now the next screen is really cool. What it'll do is you'll have your master level of your DSP volume right here, so you can actually get music playing again, and you'll hear it play in the background, and you have control of your volume right here. And then you're going to see the measurements that were done in the vehicle. You'll actually see everything done and the EQ being applied and what kind of EQ you want to apply. So we're going to take a look at each one by one. So we can see here that the green line is actually the measurement that was done in the vehicle. We could see it actually, a lot of the mid-range was gone. Now, honestly, that's probably because I actually do have a window open so I can film this, but and your results are going to be different. Now you can also look at this and say, well, you know what? I might want to turn my tweeters down, and then do a remeasure because, you can see they're pretty high up on the scale here. Like I said, it's going to be different every time. So we're going to put in, this is what our target will be. So this is the default line, but you can also adjust this and make it anything you want. So I'm going to actually mess with that right now. I actually like to have a little bit more mid bass and a little bit more sub bass. So I can do something like this. And I'm going to bring a little bit of the mid range out and a little bit, and have it kind of just taper off. Maybe something a little more like that. Cool. And then we can actually see what EQ is being applied. So you can see it actually applies a perfect inverse of the measurement. Also taking into consideration what kind of EQ curve that you want on here. And in the background, it's hard to see it, but that's actually the predicted EQ, what it'll predict the final response of the vehicle will be. And then the pink line, which we actually can't see, it's on the bottom of our scale, which is a good thing. That's your noise. So that's anything that the microphone picked up that should not have been there during the sign sweeps. If your pink line is way up in here and way up in the scale of everything, then you might want to notate that something came on, some kind of noise was going on in your environment that really caused a problem. So you might want to do a remeasure then. Okay, so. If while we're in the screen, there's a really cool feature we can do. First things first, we're going to store it. And when you do store, that will actually save all of this into the DSP's internal memory. And while you're listening, you can actually toggle the bypass EQ switch. Now, when it is on to the right position, that is actually bypassing this EQ. So this is now you're listening to the system before all the EQ has been done. And then switch to the left means you're actually utilizing the EQ. So you can actually hear a before and an after. And it's also a really great way to demo. And you can use this while you're doing your tweaking, listening to music that you do know very well, to make sure that it sounds like you want. And if you're noticing little changes you want to make, you can change them on the fly and hear it. Now, we're not doing this in this video because of copyright protection with music, but this is how you would do it here. So when you're done, you want to make sure that the EQ switches in the left position, because that is how you're going to be able to turn on and off the EQ. And just so you know, you can also reset back to default if you want to start your reference if you curve over again. That's what the reset to default button is. And then the EQ gain offset is actually applying how much of the EQ gain plus or minus that you want to apply. So like you can see, I move it down, less EQ or more of the EQ. So that's your mileage will vary there. It depends on what you want to do. I have honestly always found myself leaving it at 0, but like I said, you might play around with that to see if it makes any improvement for you. So we're all said and done. We're all happy with our results. We're going to hit store and we're done. Now, please do keep in mind that this EQ is not part of any of your presets. This is like a global EQ. You will actually not see it inside of any of your presets. The way that you see this EQ is right here in the app. If you go in and go back to your PC software, look at preset 1 and look at your EQ screen, it's actually going to look like nothing has been done. That's because that's a whole nother EQ. This is actually what is utilizing the VAR filter inside of our OTIM8. And so this is we'll call it like a global EQ. Now do keep in mind, if you do this on the phone, but then you go back to another phone or the PC software, you can't resume where you were. You'll have to do another remeasure and then do it again because it is saved by device. So please do keep that in mind as well. And that's it, guys. So if you guys have any questions or anything, just let us know. And thanks for taking the time of watching this. Have a great day.